Good evening. I hope you had a wonderful Monday in the Lord, the last day of September, and this is the last day of the third quarter of 2019, right? First quarter, January to March, second, April to June, third, July to September, and fourth, October to December. So this really means a lot. And what the Lord brought to my heart this evening is our boys, our males. They are so special. We love them. I was so happy today. I just do practically cartwheels when the young men really perform who have otherwise shown differently. And when they, actually, like focus and play the piano and read the music and, looking at the notes and the fingers and all that, whoa, on the piano, it's just showing me that they can do great things. And then it is contagious. They want more, and they want to please. And it's just a beautiful thing. Well, I, for the longest, used to have pictures of young people, but especially I had a picture of this young man, and now the trial is going on. He was slain 4 years ago, November 2015. He was an 8-year-old, I believe, and he was a fourth grader. Is that right? That doesn't sound right, but anyway, he was a young man, and he was killed execution style. He was lured into the basketball court, to play and everything. And it was a revenge killing. And it was just the saddest thing. Tyshawn Lee. And we're praying for that family, the healing of their emotions, because you never can get over that. And anyway, I had his obituary hung up for the longest in my kitchen because that was a representative of so many of our young boys, males who lose their lives over nothingness, vanity. And that's, in essence, child sacrifice. And the tail end of the last chapter from this morning that we read, 2Kings4, you know that there was a battle against, there was a combination of efforts with the king of Edom and the king of Israel and the king of Judah against the king of Moab, because the heroes and rebelled against them. But it says that in verse 27 of chapter 3, it says the king of Moab, when he saw that the battle was just too sore, it was too great, he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead. He was next in line, but instead he offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. And how many times do we offer our young men as sacrifices? Just hearing the tabulations, at the end of the week or the beginning of Sunday, and oh, how many killings. It's the saddest thing. And the next chapter, 4, talks about these miracles with Elisha. Remember the widow woman who had to pay her debtor and she didn't have anything, and Elijah told her to fill the olive oil jars, get so many jars from her neighbors. But it says in verse 4 that if I do not pay my creditors, my 2 sons will be, one version says bondmen, another version says slavery. And how many of our young people are bound, right? They do not have liberty in the Lord. They might be bound to addictions or bound to a slave mentality and not experiencing the abundant life. Oh, people of God, we have to minister to our youth and this generation, especially also our girls, but we're centering on males because the first 2 miracles in chapter 4 talks about males and their mother. And also later on in that chapter, it talks about the Shunammite woman who was well-to-do, and she built the room for Elisha. She perceived that he was a holy man. And that's when Gehazi said, you know what? She doesn't have any children and her husband is old. And that's when he said, this time next year, you will have a male child to embrace. It's something to embrace our children. And what do we do to salvage and to save them so that they'll be able to have the abundant life? Well, because today is September 30th, we go to Proverbs 30. And we ask the Lord for mercy that we teach our children humility. Because in verse 17, we're seeing a lot of dishonor. It says, the eye that mocketh his father and despiseth to obey his mother or authority. Well, there's judgment that comes about. The ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. We do not want that. We want our children to experience the promises of the Lord. And we want them to be like the ants. In verse 25, the ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. So we want them to be able to have foresight and insight. And how are we able to do that? By experiencing the love of God and exposing them to the grace of God. And also the word of God. In verse 4, it says, every word of God is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Let's teach them so that they will get their protection from the Lord. They will have the armor of God out here, and they'll be able to realize the destiny that the Lord has for each one of them. I hope you have a wonderful night, getting girded up in the spirit and worshiping him in spirit and in truth. Good night.